Hello and welcome back to another Mackland's Motors YouTube video, and today we are joined with Morris the MG3. I've just booked its second MOT in, so that is happening on Tuesday and today is Friday afternoon. So I thought I'd just show you how I check over my cars before they go in for the MOT, just so that we can pick up anything beforehand so we don't get a big fail. So let's get started. So I have here the MOT check form from the government's website that you can print off to follow along at home with. I'll put a link for it in the description so you can follow along with me, but I'm just going to go through this checklist from what I can do and check. So the first item on the list is to check all the seat belts, so check that they buckle in securely, that stays, and that they're free, and then when you unbuckle them it comes undone easily. So go around all your seat belts and check that. The next part involves the dashboard, warning lamps. So check that when you start the engine all the warning lamps go out, so there shouldn't be any airbag warnings, there shouldn't be any engine management faults or any diagnostic faults. And then when you buckle up, your seatbelt light goes out, and then when you release the handbrake, that light goes out. So that's all good, and we are on 36,739 miles. Once we've established that all the warning lamps are present and correct and extinguished when the engine is running, you can give that a tick. The next part is exterior checks on the front, so check that there are no sharp edges, that the bumper isn't hanging off or isn't going to cause injury. And we can check that our daytime running lights are functioning. So next I'm checking that the condition of our wiper blades. It's maybe a bit hard to see in this sunlight, that's better, but you can check that our blades aren't damaged or cracked, they're flexible and soft. And again, just check on the other side as well. And although our rear wiper isn't a testable item because it's not compulsory, it's also just good practice to check that as well, so that our rubber blades are suitable. Up inside with the ignition on, operate the screen wash. So we've got sufficient water and they clear the screen effectively. They do chatter a wee bit, but that's just because it's cold and the rubber's gone a wee bit stiff. But that is okay, and the rear wiper as well. Takes a second for the screen wash to come through, but that clears effectively, so that's okay. Our wipers are all good. So it's also a good idea to check the function of the stock, not just the washers. So tap down is to mist, so that works. And then we've got our regular and our fast. And the toggle on the end controls our rear wiper, so that's good. So moving on to our brake operation, it's time to check our fluid condition and level for the brake fluid. So this is the maximum line and the minimum line, and we can see that the fluid sits bang on the max. And we can remove our reservoir cap to check the colour and condition to see that that looks good. A garage would have equipment to check the actual moisture content, but I can tell visually that that's perfectly acceptable. So next we need to hop into the driver's seat. Whilst we're under the bonnet, we want to check some of our fluids, so we can check our coolant here on this MG3, and it's hard to see because of the camera light, but I can see that the coolant level sits between the min and the max when cold, which is good. It's between those two lines. And we also want to check our engine oil level, so we just pull our dipstick out. We can see that the oil level sits between the min and the max, and we can see the colour of it on the kitchen roll is good. So that's our engine oil level check. And it's also a good idea to check the inside of the oil cap as well. again to see that it is relatively clear. There's a wee bit of condensation just around the edges, but that's just because of the short journeys I do. So we can wipe it off and pop it back in. And that is our fluid levels checked. Now you want to check the security of your battery. Most are held in by 2 or 3 little bolts with clamps at the side, so check that they're in place and give the battery a good shake. Also make sure that the terminals on the battery top are secure and not dangerous. It's a little bit hard to see, but I'm just checking that there's sufficient brake pad material on the brake pads and that the discs are in good condition as well. These pads were changed at 32,500 miles exactly in December 2020 when I bought the car, so I know that they're all good. But if you're not sure when your pads or discs were last changed, it's good to just check them. Again, check the condition of the pedals. There shouldn't be any sharp edges. The rubber grips should be intact. These are upgraded sports pedals from the normal MG3, just as rubber ones, but these are secure. We place our foot on the brake pedal. You can feel it stiffen up from the pressure, and then when we start the engine, the servo should engage and then my foot should drop to the floor slowly. So we can see that the servo engages. You also want to check the handbrake ratchet system so that it clicks when it comes up, and it should engage within the first half of its travel, ideally. And then check that it's secure, and then check that it engages freely. The MOT station will check the handbrake's effectiveness on their brake rollers, but this is just what you can do at home. The next part is about our steering wheel and column, so check that when the column is locked in place that it is secure. And just check the general condition of the wheel, that there's no sharp edges or it's not worn excessively. I think that's all that means really. So the next part is doors, mirrors and horns. So check that all our doors open from the outside and then close, including the boot. And then we'll check it from the inside as well. So if I just hop in the back a second. I can close this door and then it opens from the inside. And same with this other door. All the doors do open and close properly from the inside and outside, so that's all good. So we know we can get out in an emergency quickly. So next we want to check our side mirrors are secure, just give them a little shake. These do fold in by hand, but they are secure. Check that the glass is in good condition, it's not cracked or damaged. And then we can check the electrical operation here. So they go up and down, left and right. That's good. And then we can check our horn. That's good, that works. So that is our doors, mirror and horn complete. So we can check our registration plates, front and rear. So again, the spacing is correct for this format. It's secure with the 2 screws, and we can check that that's not going anywhere. Again, on the rear the number plate is secured by 2 screws and the formatting is the same. These plates are 3D or 4D, which is completely fine so long as it's all black and it still meets the ANPR standard, so there's not to worry about that. What isn't allowed nowadays is to have a coloured outline, but we can see that our font is all black. Moving on to lamps. So this car is fitted with LED daytime running lights. on both front corners, which activate when the main lights are off. So check those are functioning. Now we can flick it onto our side lights, and the dashboard should all illuminate as so. So when our side lights are on, we can see this little bulb in the middle comes on, and our LED daytime running lights extinguish. The side lights also bring on the rear lamps here, so again on both sides we can check that they illuminate. And our number plate lamps, both of them illuminate. I believe if you have two lamps, only one has to work, but if you have one lamp, it must work. That's what I believe anyway, but they both work, so that's good. Now we flick onto our dipped beams, and the full lights lighten up as well, so that's good. The garage will check the positioning, so the dipping and the side-to-side positioning of the lamps on their machine, but a brick wall or a garage door would be a good place for you at home to check. Most cars will have a headlight dipper like this here, so check that that works. Some cars are automatic, and we can flash our full beam as well, and then push it forward for it to stay on when you're on the dipped setting. And then we can also check our rear fog lamp, so the telltale comes on the dashboard, and then when we go to the back of the car, we can see that our rear fog lamp illuminates. This one is the reversing light, so we'll check that in a second. Again, cars in the UK only have to have one rear fog lamp, and I believe it has to be the offside. Although some cars have two of each, which is great. For example, my Beamer has two fog lights and two reversing lights. Tap our hazard lights on, and again we get the telltales on the dashboard. So the side repeater on the indicator functions well. There is a limit for how fast and how slow the flash can be. Some cars will either have the repeater on the wing or the mirror, either or works. Our main front indicator functions on both sides. Our side repeater on this near side front mirror functions. And then walking around to the rear, we can see that all our indicators and hazards function, which is great. So the next part is to check our rear stop lamps. So that's the two lights on the corners and the third repeater at the top as well. You can either do what I'm doing and use the camera and check back, or if you've got a living room window you can reverse up to, or a friend that can help you with this. These Kumo tyres are the original ones for this car, so they're coming up to 4 years old and 36,000 miles, so they've got quite a lot of life on them. You can check the tread depth. You can use a gauge for this. I do recommend using a gauge, but I can tell just from looking that they are in good condition. There's a tiny bit of perishing on the outer edge, but nothing severe at all on the sidewall. All along is in really good condition, so check that for all our tyres. And it's also worth going underneath the car to check the inside edge of the tyres as well. Again, we can see from this view that they are worn. From this view we can see how little wear they actually have on them, and they're wearing equally across. That's what you want to see. And this also gives us the opportunity to check our rear suspension components, which I'll move on to in a moment. Again, we can see that these tyres are immaculate. They were replaced in December 2020 at 32,500 miles when I bought the car. So the tread depth It's really good. Again, the sidewall is immaculate. Again, there's no damage to them and the pressure is good. I can check again that they're wearing evenly across all sides, and underneath and have a good check on the inside tyre wall, so all our tyres are fantastic. So next we want to check that our fuel cap itself is secure, that's not going to open itself, and that the door opens with the switch inside, and then when you push it shut, it stays shut, so that's secure. There's going to be no leakage. And then when you're just walking around the car, make sure that there's no damage or sharp edges that would cause untoward injury. This car is obviously immaculate, so that's not to worry about, but if you've had a wee damage, just make sure that on the edges is all not going to cause any injury. The tester will check your exhaust emissions on their machine and give you a printout to make sure it's within the tolerances, but just check visually the condition of the exhaust, that there's no holes or damage, and that the carriers that hold the exhaust on are secure and it's not going to come off, so this exhaust is in really good condition. So now that we've given the MG3 a thorough visual check over on the ground, let's take it home, give it a really good wash before we take it to the station on Tuesday. So I'll see you back at HQ ready for a good wash. So it's Tuesday morning, we've arrived at Canal Garage in Blackburn, Aberdeenshire, ready for the MOT test. This is the same garage who changed Mum's front tyres a few months back, and they also repaired the crankshaft pulley on my BMW when that broke. So we know them well, and we know that Chris is a really great mechanic, always fair and well priced. An hour later we got a phone call saying come down and collect the car, because it's passed with no advisories. Well done, MG. So that's the car ready for another year on the roads. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this video and found it interesting and helpful, please remember to like, comment and subscribe for more MG and BMW content coming soon.